Before we start the video, beware there will be spoilers throughout the video, including the intro, and in 3, 2, 1. Little Nightmares 2 ending left us on a cliffhanger with many people believing that it's a prequel to the first Little Nightmares game, while some still believe it's a sequel based on some other evidence. In today's video, I will analyze the information we are provided within the story and theorize what would happen in Little Nightmares 3 if it comes out, discussing two different versions, one if Little Nightmare 2 is a prequel and another if Little Nightmares 2 is a sequel. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and here is Little Nightmares 3 theory. Before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and beware, as there will be spoilers. Let's quickly go over the events that took place in Little Nightmares 2 to create a setting for Little Nightmares 3. I will only touch on the story and hints suggesting whether it's a sequel or a prequel, as it would make the video very long otherwise, and as I've already talked about them in depth in my previous videos. Mono wakes up in a wooded place called the Wilderness with TV statics behind him, which presumably hints out that he teleported here. Evading some traps, Mono finds the hunter's house where he finds Six trapped in a room, our protagonist in the first Little Nightmares game. If you've already watched the multitude of videos I made about Little Nightmares or played the game, you'd know Six is not a character to mess around with, and you should probably watch your back in her presence too. Mono frees Six from a room she's trapped in. At first, Six runs away from Mono but soon works with Mono to overcome the obstacles in this new place. Mono and Six manage to presumably kill the hunter by shooting him in the face and get aboard a broken door to sail across to the Pale City. Upon their arrival, they're greeted with silence and emptiness. They arrive at a dead city with clothes lying around. Mono then has his first encounter with the TV statics, which he uses to manipulate and teleport to a corridor he dreamt of. But before reaching the door at the end of the corridor, Six pulls him out. They then reach the school where Mono faces off the teacher with the extending neck. After exiting the school, they stumble upon a parcel room where the iconic yellow raincoat is lying. Mono points out to it and Six wears it while the lights start flickering. They then get to the hospital where they encounter the suspended doctor. They manage to incinerate the doctor alive and enjoy the incinerator's warmth briefly. Exiting the hospital, they enter an apartment where again Mono encounters another TV static. This time, Mono manages to reach the door, and when he opens it, we see the Thin Man who stands up, presumably freed now, and teleports out of the TV and kidnaps Six. Mono uses the same TV and teleports through it where he sees an eye monster which we will encounter at the end of the game. After some pickle with the viewers, Mono gets chased by the Thin Man, who then he has a final face-off with and manages to kill. Mono enters the radio tower where time and space is all distorted. Mono manages to get to Six, whom has been deformed and turned into a monster. Mono destroys Six's music box, and this in turn makes Six turn into her normal self. After trying to run away from the eye monster, crossing a thin crumbling bridge, Mono jumps, but Six lets go of him, dropping him to his doomed fate, where he sits for many years to become the Thin Man. Then Six teleports out of the TV, unsure of what to do, when she gets greeted by her shadow, who seemingly had guided Six to drop Mono, looks at a leaflet of the Maw, indicating that Six should go to the Maw. So at this point, many people think that it's a prequel and many others that it's a sequel. As people can have different opinions, I will cover both possibilities of what would happen in Little Nightmares 3. Let's theorize what will possibly happen in Little Nightmares 3 if Little Nightmares 2 was a prequel to the first game. This would suggest that the events of Little Nightmares 1 haven't occurred yet and will take place soon after Six arrives at the Maw. So in this possibility, Six travels to the Maw being directed by her shadow, who might suffer from amnesia or dual personality, which makes her forget her past. This is suggested in the comic and Six's description that she forgets a lot and struggles to remember. But this wouldn't impact the story until the very end, if she remembers or not, so either could be possible. A question soon arises to why Six wakes up in a suitcase, and why does the suitcase look similar to the one in Little Nightmares 2? And also, how does she even manage going to the Maw? As we know, Maw is a massive underwater vessel, and the entry point is high up where a type of platform is required to get to. Using a raft would be extremely challenging. There are some theories that she absorbed Mono's powers and teleported to the Maw, but through what we've been shown, she only can absorb life forces through eating or biting people. She hasn't yet acquired the lady's powers to use a magical black cloud to do that. And even if so, we didn't even see any black clouds to absorb Mono's powers. Therefore, we have a big question to how Six traveled to the Maw and why did she wake up in a suitcase. Then we know what events take place in the Maw, and she presumably traveled there to absorb life forces and satiate her hunger. At the end, Six absorbs the lady's powers and stands outside of the Maw's main door, with a ship horn being heard at the distance. This hints out that Six would use the ship and leave the Maw. But why would she do that? She is in the perfect place, suitable for her. She has multitude of guests who are farmed like livestock, ready to be eaten, or have their life forces absorbed by Six. And as we witnessed, the Pale City is a dead city, with barely any life. So where would Six travel to? In my previous videos, I analyzed some evidence and theorized that Six will become the lady, as it would make sense that the Maw is the perfect place for Six as it was for the lady, to herd and feed the guests like livestock, to then finally kill them by absorbing their life forces. This brings a question to whether Six is amnesiac or not. If she is, she would then travel to the Pale City again, realizing that there's no food or life there, and then come back to the Maw again. But it is not a possible outcome as the Shadow seems to direct Six to what to do. Therefore, the Shadow Six would possibly stop Six from leaving the Maw. In that case, Six stays in the Maw and claims the role of the new lady, possibly suffering the same doomed fate by being eaten by a Six in the future, who then repeats the loop. In this case scenario, Little Nightmares 3 will possibly introduce a new character who will try to break the loop and save the children who are the most vulnerable victims in this story. Some kids are evil and have powerful abilities and eventually become the villains, just like Mono and Six, and maybe the kid in the Tale of the North Wind, which I also theorized in another video. But majority of the children seem to be innocent. We will possibly get a new character as both Mono and Six are preoccupied in the loop. Now let's discuss what would happen if in fact Little Nightmares 2 was a sequel to the first game. Six, completing her mission to trap Mono so that the loop keeps on running, returns back to the Maw to claim her position as the new lady. And as the paintings suggest, Six slowly grows up to become the lady. At this point, as we don't know the subsequent possible events, many things could happen. But again, a very likely possibility is that we will assume the role of a new character who will try to save the children and possibly break the loop. But again, both Six and Mono are preoccupied at this stage to complete their life cycle until they're destroyed by younger versions of themselves. So in reality, whether it's a prequel or a sequel wouldn't have much impact on what would happen in Little Nightmares 3. There are some aspects which stay the same despite Little Nightmares 2 being a prequel or a sequel. The Eye is behind the predicament in the Pale City, the Maw, and the Nest. The Eye distorts the reality, time and space, enslaves people through his powers for a certain purpose which is not very clear. Maybe that's how the Eye survives, by leeching on people and creating time loops and accessing the real world. Therefore, the Eye is the big villain which we need to destroy in Little Nightmares 3 to break the loop and save the world of Little Nightmares. Whatever character we will assume the role of in the next game will be the hero to possibly do that. But as we know Little Nightmares, it likes to complicate the story. Otherwise, what's the fun of having another straightforward hero defeats the villain story? So expect there to be more than just a straightforward plot. We know the Eye is the culprit behind distorting the city and causing the space-time dilemma. After that, we actually have the villainous Six to defeat, or at least persuade to join the good side, as it seems that she's giving in to her dark side, or in other words, her dark shadow figure personality. Analyzing the comics, it seems as if certain children have supernatural abilities, whether evil or good, and it's possible that they're born with them, with another possibility that these abilities are the side effects of the Eye manipulating the space and time. In Little Nightmares 3, we hopefully will get to the root problem and solve it from within. Get the city back to normal, whatever normal means in Little Nightmares terms. Get Six to overcome her hunger, destroy the maw and free the children, and get the guests back to normal. Also, we need to figure out where these children keep coming from, and maybe then we can dive deeper and uncover the answers to some cryptic questions, such as where the unnamed girl in Very Little Nightmares came from. Why was she in an air balloon? Are other cities or places taken by other dark forces? Are specific children possessing special powers? And a lot more. That about does it for the Little Nightmares 3 theory. Thanks for watching the video, folks. Let me know what you think will happen in Little Nightmares 3 by leaving your comments down below. For more videos about Little Nightmares theories and stories, including the latest games, keep tuned right here by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. You can also follow me on Twitter, where I make announcements and involve you in game theories and stories. It's been your host R. Till the next time, have a fantastic day.